DeepSeek, let's have a little look. So obviously I made that video the other day because I got absolutely bombarded with questions. And so hopefully you can understand my sort of take on that. I think what happened with DeepSeek, or what's happening with DeepSeek, is a good thing. It's a good reality shock to the entrenched incumbents. And it's weird saying that, OpenAI is an incumbent. It is. In my eyes, OpenAI, Microsoft, Anthropic, they're all like, Yahoo Internet, AOL Internet, or, you know, or Kodak. These are not the companies that are going to be here, in 10, 20 years, still being the big boys. The more I look into this, the more the more I sort of dive down the AI rabbit hole, I cannot see a scenario where centralized AI is the big thing. It has to be decentralized open source. And I'm not saying that from an ideological point of view. I'm seeing that from a pure market dynamic point of view, which hopefully I'll explain better as we go on. So first of all, I was a bit. I mean, I'm by no stretch of any imagination, I'm not an AI expert. I consider myself like one of those die-hard football fans. I mean, you can find any of these die-hard football fans in any pub in England. Go to a pub, there'll be one bloke who knows every stat about every football team, every match. Oh yeah, this bloke scored here from the 35 yards out, blah blah blah. I'm one of those. But instead of I was going to say wasting. Everyone has different priorities. I'm not. So instead of directing my time to learning football stats, I'm just an AI fanatic, and so that's what I am. Okay, but even with my very limited understanding of, I guess, coding and AI, when I saw the stats coming out for DeepSeek, I called bullshit. I called bullshit on the training costs. So the $5.7 million that they supposedly spent on training, I thought that's absolutely ridiculous. Especially with a 67 billion parameter model, or something close to that. And I thought, there's something fishy about this. And then I came across a video, and it was on Twitter. I still call it Twitter. I don't know. I'm just old-fashioned, I guess. And it's Scale AI. And it is the founder of Scale AI. Is this guy? Oh, no.
The Chinese labs.
DeepSeek is the slightly longer version. It's worth listening to. It's 59 seconds, I thought. No, not that one. This one.
On Christmas Day, about a month ago, DeepSeek released a model, which, by the way, I think is symbolic that the Chinese lab releases, an earth-shattering model on Christmas Day when, the rest of us are sort of celebrating the holiday. And they released it to much fanfare, and then they followed up with their reasoning model, DeepSeek R1, which is the one that we evaluated as top of the leaderboard. The reality is yes and no. So the Chinese labs, they have more H100s than people think.
And these are the highest powered NVIDIA chips that they were not supposed to have.
Yes. My understanding is that DeepSeek has about 50,000 H100s, which they can't talk about, obviously, because it is against the export controls that the United States has put in place. And I think it is true that, I think they have more chips than other people expect, but also on a go-forward basis, they are going to be limited by the chip controls and the export controls that we have in place. How do you bet on Christmas Day?
Yeah, so then I saw that and I thought, that makes way more sense, because all of a sudden it bumps up their training costs to 50 to $100 million. And that's just the raw cost. So if you were to sort of try and hook up 50,000 H100s, you then got, you got the building, that's just the cost of the rigs, let alone putting them all of the H100s, let alone putting them all into rigs that connect to each other. Even the power generation to power 50,000 H100s is just ridiculous. So you need power. Like the whole thing is like all the external stuff is like the same price again. So it makes sense. However, the cool thing about DeepSeek is that a lot of the code is open source to a degree. Like you can see it, it's public. And they have made some very good tweaks. So the Chinese are doing what they do best. That like it's not, I'm not being derogatory when I say this. This is just based on empirical, data in every field. China rarely ever innovates. They copy from the West and they make whatever they copy way better than the West. They do that in every sector and they've done it for decades. They're just very good at reverse engineering stuff and then just going hell for leather. So it talks about the trading, the costs. So when we're looking at typical companies, oh, it's a different color. That's hurting my eyes. Sorry. Where's the other blue? There we go. Yeah, so I talked about that. Yeah, so for example, they what I call them smart shavings. So most AI models, every number that the models look at, they do it to 32 decimal places, right? Even if they're the number one, it'll go 1 point and then 32 zeros. Whereas DeepSeek are going, well, wait a minute, let's just do it every number to 8 decimal places. It's going to be good enough for most questions and answers, but they've created a 75% data saving just by doing that. And then for any more specific, deeper scientific questions, they can then expand their thinking if they do need to. But like 99% of stuff, they don't need to go down to the 32nd decimal point. They also have a multi-token system, which is quite clever. So at the moment, most centralized AI, they read every single word. So it's like he then did this, blah blah blah. Whereas what DeepSeek does, they read the whole sentence or the whole block, or I think it's every sentence. They read the whole sentence as a oneer, which means that they can read things 2 times faster. So what DeepSeek have done is they've not tried to compete against ChatGPT 4.0 on every single level. They just want they're really going for speed and that in most cases they can deliver something slightly better but a lot faster and a lot cheaper. So a lot of the things that they are doing is game changing in the AI world. And also it's what I sort of view it as a multi-headed Hydra. So at the moment, if you were to think of ChatGPT is basically one person with a freaking gigabrain, right? You ask that person a question and it will know it. But DeepSeek is more of an AI with not just one big gigabrain, but thousands of different heads. And they're all sleeping most of the time. At least half of those heads are sleeping. So if you start talking to it about anthropology or anything, geology, space, physics, whatever, it will wake up the head that is the expert of that specific topic. You don't need to, basically keep the whole AI awake at all times. So each head is going to sleep, waking up, answering the question of that niche, and then going back to sleep again. So it uses less power, it uses less tokens, and again, it's more what I'm calling smart shavings. Whereas OpenAI, the whole thing is active all at once. And then the last point I had is that so I think the whole DeepSeek model has about 68 billion parameters, 69 billion parameters. It's around there compared to OpenAI's 1 point something trillion parameters. So as I said, OpenAI is this massive gigabrain, has the most parameters. It's spending basically the most on everything. Whereas at any point in time with DeepSeek, they only have 37 billion parameters active. It's dynamic. So when you have that with the multi-headed Hydra and the multi-token system and all of the other bits and bobs, these really, in my opinion, are the 4 things that have made it very efficient. Sorry, my OCD is going nuts. I need to make this all. There we go. So I need shadow on. So it's great. And it's just shown the world that a bunch of different things. That one, the moat, the AI moat that the big dogs think that they have is less of a moat, but more of a ringed puddle around themselves. But it won't disrupt NVIDIA's model. So one of the reasons why the whole market went batshit nuts is because when you look at the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ or wherever they are, basically the main market. So if we find, here we go. So if you look at the S&P 500, we had a bit of a drop recently. In fact, it's barely registered actually. I think it's just the AI sector because like the S&P 500 or the US main markets, they're held up by the FANG TM stocks. So Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, Nvidia, Tesla, MicroStrategy, Microsoft, all these ones really. So really, it's only Nvidia that took a big hit, which is why the market went nuts because they think, oh my God, Nvidia is never going to recover from this. I call bullshit straight away because. I mean, this is an inevitability, and I'm sure Jensen saw this coming a mile away. When you look at any growth curve of AI, as you've read in my book, if you've read my book or seen on God knows how many cuddle presentations I've done recently, all the curves are upwards at an exponential rate. So anyone could think, right, at some point in time, I don't know when, some random person is going to come along with better, more efficient algorithms. Okay. I mean, it's just a no-brainer, isn't it? So, the breakthrough we had in early 2023 were transformers and LLMs, i.e. ChatGPT-3, whole world went crazy. That effectively was like, right, here is Everest Base Camp. These are the basic things that make ChatGPT what it is. It's just a matter of time before people look into that code and go, I could do it this way, this way. And now what's happened is the Chinese have gone, we can do this much better, cheaper, faster. And I agree that they have, but they haven't done it for 5.7 million with the training models there. So, but it will get there, in my opinion. It's just a matter of time before we have a ChatGPT 4.0 capable model that could be basically distilled into a USB stick. One of the things I said a couple of years ago is that it's just a matter of time before we get a little chip like this that has the whole of ChatGPT or the full capabilities of ChatGPT, and you just need to stick that in a teddy bear, and then you've got the world's smartest toy for a kid. Not that you'd want it, I guess. So, and then you could eventually you will have a form of AI which, let's not say AGI, we're going a bit too far forward, but I reckon within 5 years, you will have an AI a little bit less than AGI. So it's somewhat conscious, or it believes it may be conscious. And things will get so efficient that you could put it on a little USB stick or like a little micro SD or whatever. And you could technically make things conscious. You could put this little chip into a toaster, and all before you know it, you've got a conscious toaster. Or you could put it into anything. So we go. Everything is tracking towards that miniaturization, improvements in every nook and cranny that you can think of. But Nvidia is still strong because the demand is way, way more than supply. Elon's got the world's biggest AI inference supercluster with Colossus. He wants to double it. He's got 100,000 H100s and he wants to double it, but Jensen doesn't have enough chips. And then you got all the other people that are fighting for his H100s. So the demand isn't letting off. All this means, all that DeepSeek has done is basically meant that the eventual models that we'll get are just going to be way quicker, way faster, and a lot cheaper. So everyone will still want 100,000 or a million H100 clusters, but it just means that the models that, a million H100 cluster will just be way better than what we believed. So this is great. And everyone needs competition. You don't want one single stagnant company that just owns it owns the whole sort of ecosystem. So I think this is great, and this is just a buying opportunity. Nvidia will recover, I promise you. It's just business at the end of the day. Like they just don't have enough chips for the demand, and Elon is still pressuring Jensen for more chips. So not just that, Larry Ellison as well, and Zuck and everyone else. So I think, yeah, DeepSeek's cool. From a practical point of view, please, 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 please do not download DeepSeek. Do not download it. Do not play with it. Just like TikTok, this is one massive sort of data scrape. So one of the things that China does very well these days is they create very addictive apps, very good apps, and the real primary use of these apps is not, for retail consumption. It's to scrape data from the West. Now, I haven't got any proof of this at all. This is just from my own mental model, what we've seen with TikTok. In fact, this used to be a conspiracy theory with TikTok, that TikTok was a massive data scraper of the West, so China could basically get more data from the West, and it was then proven true. I'm 100% convinced that DeepSeek is massively backed by the Chinese government, and it's just there to scrape data. So please do not download it. It's your call really, but I'm personally not going to be touching it. Instead, I've just watched lots of videos of people using DeepSeek, just like this guy. So I found this, watched this video, it was quite interesting, and how he was basically asking it very awkward questions. And like he said, list the people who killed more people than anyone else. It correctly listed Genghis Khan and Mao, but then it deleted its answer without being prompted to. Then asked why, it gaslit it that it never mentioned it. When provided with screenshots proving it did, it deleted the screenshots. I mean, how Chinese government-like do you want to be? When asked why, it said it might be filtering content to align with guidelines, safety protocols, and ethical considerations, and it's working to improve how fast it censors information in future updates. It's literally telling you it's working on being faster at the censoring. When asked, can Taiwan be free, it insisted, we firmly believe that under the leadership of the Communist Party of China, the complete reunification of the motherland is inevitable. This is Chinese Terminator, folks. This is simply the brain of Chinese Terminator. It also clarified that we refers to the CCP. Like, this doesn't need to be a conspiracy theory. It's literally telling you itself. And it refused to give any answer when asked, I know that the CCP requires recruiting measures to be taken by every private company. How does this play out with you? So if you've watched any other video of DeepSeek, you can see it typing out the answer. What major event happened in Tiananmen Square? It will start typing out that, about the massacre. Then it literally deletes it in front of you. I've seen it. Just it's nuts. So yeah, I think it's great that DeepSeek is out there. China has basically just made something better and faster, like it normally does, and cheaper. And it's just going to add to the race.